every single time you're getting dressed in the morning, you might be unconsciously limiting yourself. And that is because we are never starting from a clean slate. Yes, we all have our own biases and preconceptions that we bring with us every single time we're looking to put an outfit together. So if you want to uncover your hidden misconceptions that are preventing you from truly accessing your personal style, then keep on watching because I'm going to share with you a very simple exercise that is going to help. Ready? Let's go. I recently reviewed Kibbe's brand new book, Power of Style, and one of the exercises that really made an impression on me was called the Potluck. And I kind of love the name because the potluck is all about what we bring to the table. So Kibbe is saying that 5 people looking at the same color or looking at the same picture are actually going to describe it differently. And that is because we all have our own preconceptions and biases that we unconsciously carry within ourselves. And so that is affecting how we see things in the mirror, how we see outfits, how we see certain things related to style. And so to help you uncover that, he actually suggested a very easy exercise that you can do in 5 minutes. So all you need to do if you want to understand what might be affecting your judgment every single time you put together an outfit is to actually record your reaction, whether it's positive or negative, to 2 sets of words. So the first set of words is all about descriptive words, and those are more like personality traits or how someone can refer when describing you. For example, sweet, strong, innocent, and so on. The second set of words are all about physical things that you can see on your body. And it might be things like shoulders and waist, but it can also be words such as wide, small, and so on. And so in order to do the exercise, you need to categorize all of the words that he shared into 2 columns, the positive and the negative, and also try to note down the 4 positive words and the 4 negative words that elicit the strongest reaction. So in order to do this exercise in the best possible way, I recommend doing some grounding. And that can be literally as simple as taking a couple of deep breaths and just kind of centering yourself in, maybe imagining your favorite place or one of your favorite memories, just to kind of put you in this positive state of mind where you're actually open to receiving a new sort of wisdom and revelations. Because it does help when we are open to insights rather than being in this frantic state of mind. The next step is to actually record your reaction to the words, and I've actually made you a free Notion template. If you want to do this digitally, it has a lot of space for you to type and it can be quite easy, but you can equally well do it on a piece of paper. So if you're more of a visual person, here are the 2 sets of words. You can pause now and take a screenshot so you can actually go through each of the words one by one. Or if you're more of an auditory person, let me read the words out to you. And try to notice which of those words maybe bring the strongest positive or the strongest negative reaction. So I'm just going to read them from the book. The descriptive words are cute, powerful, boyish, sexy, understated, sweet, athletic, brassy, innocent, trendy, adorable, glamorous, girlish, strong, soft, femme fatale, diva, delicate, flamboyant, and youthful. And the physical words are shoulders, hips, thighs, bust, muscular, angular, thin, wide, flesh, curve, petite, broad, curvy, short, sharp, big, small, thick, waist, and long. All right. So I just want to clarify that this is where Kibbe's exercise actually stops in the book, but I actually think that there is so much more we can learn about our personal style and biases if we actually take it a step further and analyze our answers. And so this is why I created the exercise. Now that you've actually separated your words into positive and negative, it is time to play a little bit of a detective and try to spot patterns in all of the clues that you've gathered. So what I mean by this is look at all of the negative words that you've outlined and try to group them in certain ways. And now those groups are very personal to you. I'll show you mine in a second, but there isn't a right or wrong way to group them. It's just maybe if you feel that certain words kind of belong together or connect to a certain theme, then put them all together. And once you've grouped them, I want you to ask yourself, what's the trend in here? Like, what is the thing that I associate this with? And what kind of clothes I might be avoiding because of that? So let me show you my example. Now, the first set of words was actually very surprising for me. And that is because to a lot of people, all of those words would actually be considered positive. So the words were cute, sweet, innocent, adorable, girlish, and understated. And so a lot of those words might be someone's personal style words, might be how they identify themselves. But when I dug a little bit deeper, I realized that I associate this with girls rather than women, and almost like with innocence and inexperience. And so because I want to be a very capable professional, being a young girl who is maybe inexperienced was kind of not relating to that. And it was almost a sign of weakness. And I'm not saying that being girly or cute is a sign of weakness. It is just in my head, this is how I perceive those words. And I'm speaking from experience as someone that for many, many years has been the person that was people pleasing, that was always doing the things that other people wanted to do. And I wasn't necessarily sharing my voice and my opinion. This is why maybe some of those words had this negative connotation, because I was always the nice person, the cute person, but not necessarily the strong and powerful person who actually had an opinion. So I realized that the clothes I might be avoiding because of this group is actually anything that has a very delicate pattern. So things like small polka dots, small flowers, anything that is very delicate and girly, I'm not necessarily a huge fan of. This also applies to things like pastel colors that are very light and delicate, anything that is extremely fluffy and soft, anything that maybe correlates to being more girly, like ruffles and ribbons and any sort of girlish details. And even the word understated to me belonged in this group. And so any items that are maybe very, very plain are also not very appealing to me, because again, they're not necessarily getting you noticed and getting you maybe the respect that I feel you deserve. So just to clarify again, these are my associations. I'm not saying any of those words or any of those dressing styles are bad. It's just for me, they felt very foreign to me personally. The second set of words was also interesting because I realized that they were sort of the complete opposite of the previous set of words, and those were the words brassy, diva, and flamboyant. And so for me, I associate that with someone being kind of over the top. And so rather than being almost invisible, this is someone that is being too visible, like obnoxiously visible, very loud. And again, that is not my personality or how I want to be perceived. And so the styles that I would avoid is any sort of extremely bright and loud patterns all over my body. So oftentimes, if I'm wearing something very bright, I would try to sort of tone it down a little bit with neutrals. I would also avoid any very revealing styles, any very high slits, deep v-necks, any sort of really big and bold sunglasses, accessories, anything that created that feeling of flamboyance in my head. The third set of words, and again, this is something that is completely personal to me, but they were words that I associated with maybe a more masculine or male style, and those were words such as boyish, athletic, muscular, angular, wide, shoulders, broad, big, and long. And again, none of those words on its own is actually bad. It's just in my head, I realized that because I feel like I'm quite soft in terms of my body, a lot of those words don't ring very true to me. And so they have maybe not as negative association as the word flamboyant or diva, but still had a little bit of a negative reaction when I tuned into my body. And so this was actually super interesting because I realized because of that, I'm avoiding even trying some more masculine styles. Things like sharp collars, blazers, tailored trousers, Oxford shoes, ties, anything that is maybe related to suiting like a waistcoat. All of those items I had actually avoided for many, many years. But I realized that a lot of those items, whenever I see them even in store, I just naturally avoid them. And this might be actually limiting me. And then the final set of words I had in here was actually hips, bust, flesh, curvy, and thick. And I was struggling a little bit to identify the common pattern between those words, but I kind of think it's about relating to the three-dimensionality of the body. So basically, hips and bust and flesh kind of make you not flat, not sort of like thin and two-dimensional, but they make you three-dimensional. And again, in my head, for some reason, that was not necessarily the most positive association. So anything that maybe was very tight and really highlighted my breasts and highlighted my hips, my curves, and also the fleshiness, so being quite open, I felt quite uncomfortable in it because it felt kind of very revealing and really showing that my body is three-dimensional. And so this part can be a little bit revealing, so definitely take your time with it. But I think it can really show you what sort of styles you might be avoiding, what sort of aesthetics you might be avoiding, and how you might be limiting your perspective every single time you go and look in stores for something. Now, the second part of this exercise is a lot more positive, and it is about doing the same thing. So, trying to find the positive patterns in the words that we have deemed as eliciting positive reaction. And so, we're going to ask ourselves what's the theme in here, and maybe what sort of styles or clothes we are leaning towards because they make us feel good. So the first group actually only had two words, and those were the words powerful and strong. And I realized after analyzing the negative ones that to me, powerful and strong are actually relatively neutral. They sit kind of in the middle between someone being very cute and innocent and someone being very brassy and flamboyant. So it's basically someone that knows their things, is capable of doing a lot, but it's not kind of over the top and it's also not being sidelined. And so for me, I associated the words powerful and strong with a couple of different specific items. So the first type of item is actually blazers. I also have medium long coats, anything that is made of black faux leather, anything with chains, and also the color red as a whole. So to me, all of that symbolized that feeling of strength and power without necessarily being in the flamboyant direction. So the second set of words was actually trendy, youthful, and sharp. And the common theme I could find in here is just maybe someone that is keeping with the times and kind of knows what is going on around them, being aware. And so for me, this doesn't necessarily manifest in buying trendy things, although it used to, but more so right now, it is about looking into new ways to combine items, new ways to style a certain item, and maybe some more tips and tricks about using your accessories, using your items in more creative ways. And so it's not necessarily a specific thing that I buy, but it is this constant curiosity to update my style to be more current. Another set of words that elicited a positive reaction within me was actually delicate, thin, petite, short, and small. And for me, all of that related to things that are small. There wasn't like a better way to describe it. And so to me, this actually manifests in wearing a lot of short styles. You can see that in my wardrobe, I have actually a lot of shorts and skirts and shorter dresses. I do like my legs, and maybe that is why this is a positive association in there. But also within my accessories, for example, I do prefer my jewelry to be quite thin. So for example, this bracelet, you can see it is quite smallish. It doesn't have anything super big. Same things with my rings. A lot of them are very thin. A lot of my necklaces are more on the thin, small side. And so I think that this sort of delicateness is actually something that I enjoy. And so this was actually quite interesting because all of the other words such as cute and girlish were in the negative category, but the word delicate on its own was actually not evoking any negative reaction. And this is also why I think that I like, for example, lace blouses or anything that has this maybe delicate pattern, delicate lace, something that creates a sense of smallness, but not necessarily in a cute way. It is just a small detail. And then the final set of words that created a positive reaction within me were the words sexy, glamorous, soft, femme fatale, thighs, curves, and waist. And so again, this was quite interesting because I couldn't necessarily put like what's the theme in here. And so I put it simply as words that relate to womanhood rather than girlhood, which was the negative words that I explained before. And so I would oftentimes look for items that are soft and accentuate my body without necessarily kind of wrapping it fully, which was the previous negative set of words. But these are more things that showcase in a feminine kind of womanly way, but still a little bit more delicate and not necessarily super in your face kind of way. So you can see things like the shorter skirts, maybe wrap tops, V-necks that are not super deep. It might be something that is figure hugging or figure enhancing. I would often define my waist, and I would also enjoy showing my thighs because I realized that hips create a negative association, but thighs, I actually like my thighs. As I said, I like my legs, and so for me, showing my thighs is actually not bad. Now, the thing that also surprised me in here is that curvy was negative, but curve on its own was actually positive or like more neutral. And so I started to ask myself this question: why is that? And you can do that for any set of words that maybe is a bit confusing because they are quite similar, but you have a negative reaction for one word and a positive reaction for another. And so I realized that I often associate curvy with plus size. This is often how kind of plus size bigger ranges are described. And I didn't necessarily want to be described as someone who is plus size because I'm actually working towards slightly lowering my weight because I naturally feel a lot better at that slightly lower weight. And so for me, the word curvy was kind of like going in the opposite direction of where I wanted to go. But the word curve on its own was simply a feature of my body. And so I realized that clothes that make me feel curvy curvy on their own are not something that I reach towards, versus clothes that simply accentuate or enhance my curves on the body, but don't necessarily make me feel curvy as a whole, are clothes that I actually enjoy wearing. And so that was super interesting. And if you want to take this exercise even further, I've also put 2 questions that you can explore and journal on, which is basically taking the words that evoke the strongest negative reaction and the strongest positive reaction, and just basically asking yourself, why do you think that is? So just like I mentioned with the word curvy, that I had this sort of negative association, maybe try and explore what are some of the ways that you have associated some words with something negative or something very positive. And so this can reveal how you might be holding yourself back. Because for me, for example, the words diva and flamboyant were the ones that genuinely created almost like a visceral shrinking, kind of like, oh my gosh, no, I would never want to be described as she's a diva, right? But that was also because I realized that I have often been really, really afraid to be noticed and to take up space and to maybe go against the grain or share an unpopular opinion. And I'm still shedding that conditioning of the fact that I could be too much if I stand in my power. And so this exercise can be very, very revealing if you dig a little bit deeper, and it can help you to uncover maybe some of the biases and misconceptions you even have in your own head. And this might be some things that you want to keep because they don't bother you, or this might be certain things that you might want to work on because they are preventing you from getting to where you want to be. And so for me, for example, I have to shed that conditioning that I could ever be too much for some people. Like, I can absolutely be too much for some people, but it shouldn't stop me from expressing myself authentically. And I have no control of how other people perceive me, what is too much for some of them, what is too little for some of them. It's not within my control. But what I can control is that I make sure to feel powerful and strong. And if someone has an opinion of how I'm dressing, what I'm wearing, and so on, this is their opinion and it's not a reflection of who I am as a person. So as you can see, this exercise can be really fun. So if you have 15-20 minutes, I definitely recommend downloading the free template and doing this yourself. And so let me know in the comments, does any of the words actually spark a reaction in you? What do you think about this exercise? Or maybe something that you have uncovered. I can't wait to read what you come up with, and I'll see you in my next video.